There is a moment in attraction that almost everyone has experienced, but very few people understand. You meet someone, the energy feels strong, conversation flows effortlessly, interest is obvious, and then suddenly something changes. One person moves closer emotionally, and the other steps back. Distance appears, curiosity increases, attention fades, desire grows stronger, and without realizing it, both people enter an invisible psychological dance. A dance known as push and pull. Most people think push-pull is a dating trick, a manipulation tactic, or a social strategy learned from modern relationship advice. But psychologically, it is something far deeper. Push-pull is not created by techniques. It is created by the human nervous system itself. Because attraction does not grow in certainty. It grows in tension. And tension is born when safety and uncertainty exist together. This is where most people misunderstand attraction completely. They believe consistency alone creates desire, or they believe emotional distance alone creates mystery. But the truth is uncomfortable. Too much closeness kills curiosity. Too much distance kills connection. Attraction survives only in the space between the two. That space is push-pull. Human psychology is built around prediction. Your brain constantly tries to reduce uncertainty. It wants patterns, stability, emotional clarity. When someone becomes fully predictable, the brain stops investing energy. Dopamine, the chemical responsible for motivation and pursuit, decreases when outcomes feel guaranteed. This is why early attraction feels electric. Not because you know the person, but because you don't. Every interaction carries possibility. Every message creates anticipation. Every silence creates imagination. The mind begins filling gaps with emotional projections. And here something fascinating happens. The attraction you feel is no longer only about the person. It becomes about the psychological experience they create inside you. Push-pull emerges naturally from this mechanism. When someone moves closer emotionally, your brain experiences reward and safety. When they slightly withdraw, your brain experiences uncertainty, and uncertainty activates attention. Attention increases emotional investment. Investment increases perceived value. And suddenly, the person feels more important than before, not because they changed, but because your brain started working harder to understand them. This is why attraction often intensifies after small emotional distance. The nervous system interprets unpredictability as significance. Your brain asks, why did their energy change? Did I lose something? Do they still feel the same? These questions create cognitive loops. And cognitive loops create emotional attachment. Push-pull is therefore not manipulation. It is a psychological amplification system. Keeps emotional engagement alive. But here lies the danger. When people consciously try to use push-pull without understanding psychology, they often destroy attraction instead of building it. Because real push-pull is subtle. It is not hot and cold behavior. It is emotional rhythm. Healthy push-pull looks like this: presence without neediness, distance without rejection, interest without pressure, independence without emotional disappearance. The moment push becomes avoidance, attraction turns into anxiety. The moment pull becomes chasing, attraction turns into pressure. And pressure is the fastest attraction killer the brain knows. To understand this deeper, we must look at attachment psychology. Human beings are biologically wired to seek emotional regulation through connection. But every person carries a different internal relationship blueprint. Some people move closer when they feel attraction. Others move away when emotions become intense. This creates natural push-pull dynamics between anxious and avoidant tendencies. The anxious mind seeks reassurance. The avoidant mind seeks autonomy. Neither is wrong. Both are survival adaptations. And when these two systems interact, attraction becomes emotionally charged. One moves closer, the other pulls back. Distance increases longing. Reconnection creates relief. Relief strengthens bonding chemicals like oxytocin. And slowly, the emotional cycle becomes addictive. People often mistake this emotional intensity for deep compatibility. But psychologically, it is often simply nervous system activation. This explains why calm relationships sometimes feel less exciting to people used to push-pull dynamics. Their brain has learned to associate emotional fluctuation with attraction. Peace feels unfamiliar. Intensity feels meaningful. Push-pull works because humans value what feels partially accessible. If something is completely unavailable, the brain disengages. If something is completely secured, curiosity disappears. But when access feels possible, yet not guaranteed, desire activates. This principle exists everywhere. Storytelling, marketing, art, even addiction psychology. The brain invests most energy where outcome uncertainty exists. In relationships, this translates into emotional pacing. Someone who reveals everything instantly removes discovery. Someone who reveals nothing blocks emotional bonding. But someone who unfolds gradually creates psychological momentum. Each interaction becomes a reward. Each absence becomes anticipation. And anticipation is the engine of attraction. This is why mystery is not about hiding who you are. It is about allowing emotional discovery to happen over time. Push-pull at its healthiest form is simply emotional timing. Knowing when to engage deeply and when to return to your own world. Because attraction grows strongest when two independent emotional systems meet, not when one dissolves into the other. The moment identity disappears inside connection, polarity collapses. And without polarity, attraction slowly fades. Most people lose attraction not because feelings disappear, but because emotional rhythm disappears. They become constantly available, constantly predictable, constantly emotionally exposed. And the brain, having nothing left to explore, reduces emotional investment. Push-pull restores exploration. It reminds the nervous system that connection exists alongside individuality. That closeness is chosen, not required. And choice is psychologically powerful, because desire thrives where freedom exists. But here comes the paradox. True push-pull cannot be faked. It naturally appears in people who genuinely have a full internal life. people who have purpose beyond the relationship, people who do not depend emotionally on constant validation. Their attention moves naturally between connection and individuality, and this natural movement creates attraction without effort. While others try to imitate push-pull behavior, they often create emotional inconsistency instead. And inconsistency creates insecurity, not desire. So the real question is not, how do you use push-pull? The real question is, what psychological state creates push-pull naturally? The answer is emotional self-sufficiency. When someone enjoys connection but does not fear its loss, their behavior becomes balanced. They lean in without desperation. They step back without withdrawal. And this balance signals something powerful to the subconscious mind: safety combined with independence. And that combination is one of the strongest attraction triggers in human psychology. Because the real reason push-pull works is not emotional, it is neurological. Long before attraction becomes conscious feeling, the brain is already calculating value, risk, reward, and emotional significance. And the brain does something strange when certainty disappears. Pays more attention. Human attention is not designed to focus on what is stable. It is designed to focus on what might change. From an evolutionary perspective, uncertainty meant survival importance. A predictable environment required little energy. An unpredictable one demanded awareness. So when a person becomes emotionally unpredictable, not chaotic, but slightly uncertain, the brain increases monitoring behavior. You think about them more. You replay conversations. You analyze tone, pauses, reactions. And every time your mind returns to them, emotional investment increases. This is why push-pull creates psychological depth without increasing actual interaction time. Because attraction is not measured by time spent together. It is measured by mental space occupied. Now we enter dopamine psychology. Most people misunderstand dopamine completely. They believe dopamine is pleasure. It is not. Dopamine is anticipation. It activates not when reward is received, but when reward might happen. This is the same mechanism behind gambling addiction. The unpredictable reward creates stronger neurological engagement than guaranteed reward. When outcomes become certain, dopamine drops. But when reward becomes intermittent, sometimes present, sometimes absent, dopamine spikes dramatically. Push-pull unintentionally mirrors this structure. Emotional closeness becomes the reward. Emotional distance becomes anticipation. And anticipation strengthens desire. The brain begins chasing emotional resolution. Not because the person is objectively perfect, but because the emotional loop remains unfinished. This explains something many people secretly experience. Why someone who gives inconsistent attention can feel more emotionally intense than someone consistently kind. It is not because inconsistency is attractive. It is because unresolved emotional cycles demand completion. The brain hates unfinished emotional patterns, so it keeps returning, seeking closure, seeking reassurance, seeking emotional equilibrium, and every return deepens attachment. But here is where psychology becomes dangerous. Healthy push-pull creates curiosity. Unhealthy push-pull creates emotional dependency. The difference lies in emotional safety. When distance feels playful or natural, attraction grows. When distance feels threatening, anxiety grows. And anxiety can easily be mistaken for desire. Many people confuse nervous system activation with chemistry. They say, "I feel something strong with them," but what they feel is not attraction. It is emotional uncertainty. The nervous system cannot always distinguish excitement from stress. Both increase heart rate. Both increase focus. Both create emotional intensity. This is why some relationships feel addictive but exhausting. They are built on unstable push-pull cycles. Now we reach the hidden power dimension. In every relationship, power is silently determined by emotional dependency. The person who feels they need the connection more unconsciously gives away psychological leverage. Push-pull shifts perceived emotional investment. When someone slightly withdraws, the other often invests more energy trying to restore connection. Investment creates attachment. Attachment increases perceived value, and perceived value changes power balance. This happens automatically. No one consciously decides it. The nervous system adjusts behavior to protect emotional security. And suddenly, attraction becomes linked with emotional positioning. The one who appears less emotionally dependent often feels more desirable. Not because they care less, but because emotional autonomy signals strength. But here is the deeper truth rarely spoken. Real power in attraction is not emotional distance. It is emotional stability. Someone grounded internally does not chase excessively and does not withdraw dramatically. They remain centered, and this stability creates a powerful psychological effect. Their presence feels calm yet intriguing, safe yet not fully possessed, available yet independent. The brain interprets this as high emotional value, because emotionally regulated people reduce threat while maintaining mystery. Now consider what happens when push-pull disappears entirely. When communication becomes constant, predictable, emotionally flat, the nervous system relaxes completely. Comfort increases, but stimulation decreases. Without small emotional fluctuations, dopamine engagement fades. The relationship becomes psychologically resolved, and resolution, while peaceful, often reduces erotic curiosity. This is why long-term attraction requires emotional movement, not instability, but rhythm, connection, space, reconnection, growth, rediscovery. Push-pull at its healthiest is simply emotional breathing. Too much closeness suffocates desire. Too much distance starves connection. But rhythmic movement keeps emotional oxygen flowing. Here is the paradox few understand. People are not attracted to those who play games. They are attracted to those who live full emotional lives. A person with passions, goals, boundaries, and inner direction naturally creates push-pull dynamics, because their attention cannot revolve entirely around one person. Their absence feels natural, not strategic. Their presence feels chosen, not needy. And choice is deeply attractive, because when attention feels voluntary, it feels valuable. At this point, push-pull stops being a technique. It becomes identity. You no longer think, how do I create attraction? Instead, attraction emerges from how you exist. You engage fully when present. You withdraw naturally into your own world when needed. You do not chase reassurance. You do not fear silence. And this emotional balance communicates something powerful without words. I want connection, but I do not depend on it to feel whole. This message activates respect before attraction even forms, because psychological attraction always follows perceived emotional strength. And now we arrive at the deepest realization. Push-pull is not about controlling another person's feelings. It is about preventing desire from becoming static. Desire survives only where discovery continues, where emotional certainty never fully replaces curiosity, where two individuals remain separate enough to keep exploring each other. Because attraction dies not when love appears, but when mystery disappears. So the next time you feel attraction growing stronger after distance, or curiosity rising when someone becomes slightly less available, understand what is truly happening. You are not responding to a person alone. You are responding to your brain's ancient wiring, a system designed to pursue what feels meaningful, uncertain, and alive. Push-pull is not manipulation. It is the psychological rhythm between closeness and individuality, between safety and discovery, between knowing and still wanting to know more. And perhaps the real lesson is this: the strongest attraction is never created by holding someone tightly, but by allowing enough space for desire to move freely between two independent minds. Because in the end, people are not drawn to possession. They are drawn to emotional energy that feels alive. If this episode helped you see attraction differently, subscribe to Voxlore Audio, where psychology is not simplified, it is understood.